Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Black Sheep podcast. It is your host Keziah once again, and yeah, it's back. What the hell? It's great to be back in front of the mic. I'm so sorry. I had a little like brain fog moment. I was like, wait, the back of what? What are we talking about? Also, if you hear a little noise, it's because I got a little drink with me. I got my 7-Up mixed with water because I'm just silly and quirky and I'm not like the other girls. I'm joking. It's just because like my mom was a little bit of an almond mom when it came to our teeth, and so growing up we were not allowed any fizzy drinks like at all except for 7-Up mixed with water, and usually that was only when we were feeling a bit sick. So now like when I drink actual 7-Up, it's kind of like it's a bit of a jump scare. I have to pour it into my water bottle just for it to dilute a little bit. But hey, let me know if you guys are kind of the same. I don't know. But speaking of you guys, how are you all doing today? How is life? Today is a Wednesday. Wednesday as I'm recording. I don't know when it's gonna go up. I'm sorry y'all. I've been busy. Busy. And not even just that. It's like I haven't had the opportunity to sit down and articulate a point and record. And even at that, I think I'm like in a space where over the last few weeks I haven't had any like fully formulated ideas to speak about. I have some ideas right now that are a little bit half-baked. I'm kind of just going to throw them out in the air. Pick up on the word half-baked, by the way, because I feel like I'm going to say it a lot today based on what I want to speak about. And I actually started recording this. This is my second time recording. I'm just going to be transparent. But it was getting to a point where I was trying so hard to make this half-baked opinion into a fully baked one, and I have to actually be for real and understand that I am only human. I am merely a small girl trying to figure out this world, and sometimes I have a lot of ideas that bounce around in my head, but in order to like pick one up and put it down, pin it down and really analyze it, it does take time. And not just time, it takes a certain headspace that you need to get into. And it's not that I haven't been in that headspace, it's just like I really want it to be right and perfect and be like a lesson that you can take home and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're going to try our best today. But I think one thing I'm going to say, which also kind of ties into what I think I'm going to end up talking about, is I said this at the beginning of my podcast, like on my first episode. I was so worried about being perfect and being revolutionary and being like something like a breath of fresh air. And though I feel like that's still what I want to give, I still want to give a breath of fresh air. I want to give revolutionary, but I think I had it misconstrued as perfection. That is not what we're trying to do here. And that's not what I want to come across as either, you know? I have ideas. I have things I want to speak about. And they're not always going to be perfectly articulated, and that's okay. I just feel like my presence should be enough, you know? Not in a cocky way, but like coming here and showing up and showing out is the best I can do. And I feel like you guys are here for me, you know? Not just what I say and like the things that I bring to the table per se. But you're here because you enjoy listening to me speak. And I'm here because I enjoy listening to me speak. I'm joking. Or not. But no, I mean like I come here because I enjoy speaking to you guys. I feel like a friend in the room. And like I said, that was the goal from the beginning. If you're not even... Shit, you guys could be listening to all my other episodes where I could feel like I'm spitting absolute facts and absolute gems, but you just needed noise in the background to clean your room. And honestly, I'm happy to be of service. I'm happy to be here for you. And so, speaking of being here for you, I hope you are doing well and you are having a good week, a productive week. And, you know, I feel like today, personally, it just felt like such a Friday. I don't know how else to describe it. Like, it literally feels like today was Friday. And it just feels like the week is going so slowly. I don't know, like, I'm feeling a little weird. And I hope you guys aren't feeling as weird as I am. So, to relieve the stress of the week, let's just take a little deep breath, okay? So, first of all, breathe out a little bit. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. I hope you guys did it, otherwise I'm gonna look like a proper idiot just breathing on camera. I mean nothing. I actually mean nothing. Full stop. I hope you guys did that with me and you're feeling a little less tense. Yeah, And I hope that if your week hasn't been going that well, it's still halfway through. You still got time. I feel like I'm speaking to myself because I don't know when the hell I'm going to post this. Like I said, this could be a Sunday and you're like, shit, that was the worst week of my life. But hey, tomorrow's Monday. And heck, it could be Thursday and tomorrow's Friday and you're like, damn, I had so many things I wanted to get done this week and I didn't do them. You still got Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You guys will be okay. So yeah, just a little check-in. I hope you guys are doing well. And remember to check in with yourself as well. Think introspectively, like I spoke about in the last episode with shadow work and all that. Not necessarily like delving into your deepest, darkest traumas, but just like checking in on how you're finding your week. If your routine is working for you and your mental health, if there's something you need to add or take away, evaluate it, Like, we only got one life at the end of the day. Please just cater to yourself the most that you can. Of course, not everyone wants to go to work and go to school and do all those kind of things, but like, it's the in-between time, it's the downtime, the intimate moments between you and yourself that will define how the rest of your life goes, even in the busy times, even in the things that you don't want to do. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say to begin with. This week, or why am I saying this week as if I post every week? Let me not be delusional. And to be fair, I never promised to post at any specific time. I never actually mentioned anything, and it's for a reason, because I don't know what the hell I'm doing, okay? Like I said, I don't always have time to record in a linear pattern, so take what you can get, okay? That's all I'm gonna say. Why am I getting defensive? You guys haven't even criticized me. I'm just feeling a little bad. I wish I could post more, but maybe after this master's I'll be a little bit freed up to be more consistent. Well, I am consistent. Let me stop arguing with myself. Anyways, let me take a little sip of this because I'm getting stressed out. That deep breath wasn't enough. I need another one or 3. Okay, I feel so much better. Now, today I wanted to talk a little bit about half-baked opinions and why they're still important. I did speak about this in the first episode, like I told you, about, the need to be revolutionary, or the art of being revolutionary. The art of being revolutionary. And being revolutionary is literally just showing up for your damn self. And so, shit, like, if you have something to say, just say it, Like, even if it's been said multiple times before, even if people clown you like, oh, wow, like, crazy big guy making big discoveries like that, I think like they're still important. But with that being said, I do think there is a little bit of a problem in our society, and it's not our fault, but I think it's the fault of the presence of social media and the fact that you can get so much information so quickly that we don't know how to filter out what we actually want to delve deeper into, and so we are left with a bunch of like singular sentence statements, and we absorb all of those and make them our personalities and make them the central dogma for our intelligence. And we conflate these discoveries and these thinking points as actual education when they are not the same. They are not. The TikToks that you watch, heck, even my TikToks as well, they're all like little snippets of my podcast episodes or just things that I'm thinking in the moment, and they're little opinions that I delve deeper into on here. But no one has the attention span for long form content anymore. Not a lot of people do anyway. And so a lot of the times the only information we're able to get is on TikTok or on YouTube or a quick search on Google. And now we've got the AI search engines. We've got ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Notebook LM. We've got all of them now. They're handy, they're convenient, but it's like, are we learning anything, or are we just regurgitating sentences of discovery? I don't know. Where did I get this from? I was looking back at some of my old voice notes that I used to record and pretend that I was recording my podcast because I was still too scared to actually set mine up. And so I was talking about something that I thought was this beautifully executed, well thought out idea, but it just goes to show like we don't know everything and that our ideas change and evolve over time. That isn't the point of what I want to speak about today, but what I specifically spoke about in that voice note is interesting because it kind of ties into how I feel about the way intelligence is portrayed today. Because in that voice note, the title of it was The Hierarchy of Intelligence. And I think it was kind of interesting. Like, it was a half an hour one. I spent time just quickly like listening to it the other day, and I picked up a few little points from it. I'm not going to go like make a deep dive into it because like I said, I don't fully agree with it anymore. So I'll bring it up If you agree, then that's cool, but I will mainly be speaking about why I don't agree with it. And I hope this podcast episode doesn't end up being too long, because my last ones have been like 40 minutes, and like there's no problem with that. But today I don't, like I said, like it's not like I have any crazily intense, well thought out ideas that I can go on for that long for, but I surprise myself every week with how crazily, scarily good I am at yapping. So basically, this is what I said. There's a hierarchy of intelligence that I think exists, and we all fall short because we live in a half-baked society with half-baked ideas, because none of us feel compelled to delve deeply into anything anymore. So that was the introduction. So I made 3 hierarchies. Why do I keep saying that? It's not 3 hierarchies, it's 3 tiers within the hierarchy of intelligence. So again, like, I look at these and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about them. But the analogy that I gave was reading a research paper, like, oh, oranges, 10% of all oranges cause malaria. So that would be like the headline, and then there's like an article, and then with the article there's a source that leads to a research paper. Okay, so that was like the imagery that I provided. Mind you, it's like 1, 2, 3. So 1 is the bottom and 3 is like the top tier. Okay, so 1 would be the headline reader. That's the person in the first tier. They're, like I said, they're someone with half-baked ideas. They read the headline and they're like, oh my god, I'm never eating another orange again in my life. So that would be them. And they'd go around spreading it on flipping Facebook, TikTok, you know, all the places where people are just allowed to say whatever they want and somehow get away with it. And that ties into what I spoke about before, I guess, where I said people just regurgitate things that they've seen and heard before, and we just take it as Bible, as the truth, the way, the life. And sorry, is that blasphemous? I don't think so, because it's just a play on words. I don't want to, like, you know, ruffle any feathers or anything, but yeah, people just take it as a Fendi fact and they run with that, and then they stop eating oranges because someone on Facebook or TikTok told them not to. So yeah, a lot of people in today's society fall into category 1, and not just adults, you know, children are kind of the same. We have a childlike mind, and your brain is kind of a sponge to information. You just take in whatever is told to you, basically, and that again makes up the central dogma for your intelligence and your fundamental beliefs, because you're just taking in what's been told to you. Okay, so I hope that's understood. Second tier is the article analyzer. So there are people who maybe, you know, just click the article and read through it because they want to understand a little bit more about the situation. That's normal. Again, a lot of people fall into that category. They hear information and they're like, oh, I wonder where they heard that from. I want to go Google it and see if it's true. Let me ask ChatGPT and see if it's true. You know, like, still half-baked to an extent, but, you know, you're making the effort. But then you also get people who are in that tier who are quite insufferable. They will read the keywords of the article that they do understand, and they'll leave out the ones that they don't. And then they'll go around telling people, oh, actually, according to my calculations. Why am I doing that voice? It's actually jarring. But yeah, they'll go around telling people, oh, they said 10% of oranges cause malaria, but it's actually only 10% of blood oranges, and they only cause one specific strain of malaria that is very curable. And it's only found in sub-Saharan countries. But you wouldn't know that because you didn't read the article, because I'm better than you, I'm smarter than you. I'm getting somewhere with this, okay? Heavy on the smarter than, better than you. So that would be the article analyzer, tier 2. And then top tier, tier 3, I claimed that I fell into this category, right? What a weirdo. Sorry, I'll get into why I don't agree with that at all. But it's someone who analyzes context and reads between the lines, okay? So they actually go and find the first-hand primary source of where the article came from, and they go and read the entire thing. They read the materials and methods, the discussion, the abstract, the introduction, all of that kind of stuff, all the different sources that come with it. And for me, that doesn't necessarily mean that I was like reading a whole lot at the time. I was more so saying that I analyze people really closely. Like, you know, the way I always say that I was a bit of a wallflower in school, so like I'd analyze people from the outside in and understand their mechanisms and the way that they interacted with each other, so I could, you know, create like a handbook for life on how to deal with people. That's why I called myself an observer, and that there's very few people that are in this hierarchy that sit at the top and blah, 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 blah. But you know what? I was thinking about this, and I'm going to continue thinking about this. I'm going to take a minute and sit with myself so that I can articulate this very simply, because this is where I kind of spiraled off in the first draft of this podcast, and I don't want to have to do that again. So give me a second and I'll be back. I promise. Okay, I'm back. So I think I've kind of gotten a better understanding of it. I mean, I did have it in my notes, but like, I kind of just word vomit when I type them anyway, so I kind of need to always go back and be like, wait, okay, what am I actually saying though? Let me explain. Okay, so I've gone through the 3 tiers of the hierarchy. Yeah, glitch. It was expected. I mean, don't look at me like that. Come on now. You guys know me. You know me. And you always knew that was going to happen, so don't be side-eyeing me, okay? Like, what's wrong with you? Why am I beefing my own phone again? Once again, I need to chill out. Anyways, I spoke about the 3 hierarchies. The 3, guys, for goodness sake, I'll actually throw myself out of this chair right now. The 3 tiers of the hierarchy of intelligence. I spoke about those 3, right? And I've tried to develop them and understand what they mean. And I've looked back at it a year and a half from now, and I realized that I don't actually agree with this hierarchy whatsoever. I don't think that intelligence or learning or discovery needs to have a hierarchy, because what happens when hierarchies exist is that as human beings, we tend to stick to them. And the problem is, the people at the top are always going to think that they deserve to be at the top, and that once you're at the top, there's no more elevation that is required. You already have reached peak intelligence and maximum intellect, and so there's no more discovery to do. And then you have people at the bottom tier who think that there's no point in them trying to strive for the top, because it's already been filled by other people who are a lot smarter or who are a lot more learned than they are. But remember what I said at the beginning. Learning is not the same as discovery. Learning and regurgitating information for an exam doesn't mean you know shit. It means you know how to pass shit. And that doesn't mean shit in any aspect of your life, to be honest. Let's be real, like in my undergrad, you could very easily cram an essay, spam it out, get a first class honours, get a decent job, and they teach you everything that you need to know all over again. So there's actually no need for you to go through the effort of all of that, you know, having to understand and having to get a real developed understanding of things, blah 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 blah. There's actually no requirement for that, but that's even besides the point. What I'm saying is that when hierarchies exist, there's this I'm big, you're small, I'm right, you're wrong mentality that exists, and we fail to understand that anyone can drop a few levels and anyone can move up a few levels. Do you guys remember the Matilda movie? The adult, like the evil stepdad in the movie, just because he's older than Matilda, he thinks that the power dynamic entitled him to think that he knew everything. Meanwhile, Matilda was a really, really smart and intelligent girl, and she in fact knew beyond most adults. He was like, I'm big, you're small, I'm right, you're wrong, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's kind of the same mentality I've kind of portrayed by making a hierarchy of intelligence. What do you mean that because I observe people that I'm on the top tier of intelligence? Who the hell are you? I'm speaking to like 2023 Keziah here. Who the hell are you? Because if we're being honest, like I read somewhere, I think it was Ismatu Gwendolyn. I found her on TikTok, but she has a lot of essays and stuff, like personal essays and things like that are really interesting. And she mentioned something about having seeds and knowing what the seeds do and knowing that they exist and knowing that they're there and what they grow. But if you don't ever put them in the ground, they're never going to germinate and they're never going to grow. And you're never going to reap the product or the produce or the harvest from those seeds. They're just going to sit pretty in the packaging, and you're going to hold them up as this flag of, or this trophy of how smart you were for knowing what these seeds were and how resourceful you were for sourcing out these rare seeds that nobody else has access to. But if you don't plant them, they're going to sit there and they're going to be dry and dead and nothing's going to happen to them. And this exact same way that people, including me, treasured intelligence, or rather the ability to read a lot of stuff and regurgitate it, or to read a lot of things and keep it in your brain as if you know what's going on, as if you know everything in this world. Like, oh, look at how well I observe people. It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. And it doesn't count. It doesn't mean shit about your intelligence at all. Like Gwendolyn said, you need to plant the seeds. You need to do the work. Otherwise, it is futile to say that you have all of this intelligence, but you don't utilize it. You say you know all these words, but you don't write. You don't speak. You don't educate others. You don't enlighten your community. What's the point of saying you know all these things and not using them? Presidents in Africa, saying that you're this amazing political person, You went to the best universities, you went to the smartest of schools, you got the top of your class, you're a valedictorian, yet your country is in shambles. What's the point? You're not that intelligent, are you? Because if you were, you'd put in the work. And you'd reap the seeds, you'd reap the harvest of the seeds that you sow in your community. Or if we take it back to a more juvenile example, I say that, oh, I'm so good at observing people. Do you know how easy it is to observe other people's flaws and to clock people's flaws? When people are insecure, you can see right through their insecurity, right? Through bullies, you can see that they bully people because they have an unstable personality themselves. Very easy to clock someone else's flaws. Very difficult to clock your own. Do you know how hard it is to clock your own flaws and notice when there's something wrong with you and notice that there's a lot of work to be done and there's a lot of things to improve on? Very difficult. Who's doing the work though? I know I wasn't. I was too busy looking at other people and what they're doing wrong or what they could do better, but I wasn't looking at myself. I wasn't putting in the work towards myself. I'm able to speak in my phone and send a voice note to myself, talking about all these things that I claim to know and putting out these ideas to my phone, but I'm not planting the seeds. The seeds are staying in my phone, but I never gave myself the chance to put in the work and to sow the seeds and enlighten other people. The camera just focused on my finger because I brought it too close to the screen, but that's okay. This isn't about my face right now. It's about the words that I'm saying here. Put the seeds in the flipping soil. That's true intelligence. Share it to other people. Share what you have. Investing in your community. Investing in yourself, first of all. Not just criticizing other people, pointing fingers. Point fingers at yourself. What can I do better to better all these people that I'm criticizing? Honestly speaking, if we want to actually look at the true, not necessarily the textbook definition of what it is to learn, but rather the physical actions to take to prove that you're utilizing what you've learned for the better, it's safe to say that a lot of us are not learning anymore. I'm not going to talk about the PhD people then, because a lot of them, their research truly is for good. I say 90% of PhDs, 99% of PhDs are admirable and useful and necessary, but I think what we could all do is probably take a page out of their book and move in this life like a PhD student. I'm sorry, like, if you think that you know so much about something, then hone in on what you know and get better at it. And learn more and delve deeper. That's why I started this podcast, to plant my seeds. This sounds so crazy as a woman. Plant your seed and reproduce. Sorry. I sound like I'm coming from The Handmaid's Tale. Have you guys seen that show? I've read the book and it's real scary, but I'm not even going to get into that because why the hell is that relevant? Shut up. But what else was I gonna say? I don't know. I'm trying to think about the points that I was just saying. Sometimes my brain goes a little bit blank and I kind of need to like bring myself back to center because the thoughts are spinning around everywhere. Do I want to go on a tangent and maybe come back? No, because I don't know if I'll ever come back if I go on a tangent. Let's keep it focused here. But yeah, like I said, that's what I was saying. We all have to move like PhD students. I started this podcast because I thought that I had something to bring to the table in terms of like educating people to delve deeper into their own lives, because I realized that I was doing deep dives into other people's lives without doing so for myself. And within doing so for myself, I was able to create a sense of enlightenment that provided me the confidence to speak to other people about my experiences and hopefully relate and connect to people on that level too. And that's exactly what I'm doing here. You know, it's just a small example where Even though, like I said at the beginning of this episode, we're kind of coming full circle here. I thought I had a bunch of half-baked ideas and that, it wasn't worth speaking about on this episode. It wasn't worth, wasting a whole podcast episode on something that I didn't develop fully. Guys, we need to take that hierarchy that I just mentioned and blur the lines. Blur the flipping lines, because they don't need to exist. Someone who thinks that they're at the top of the hierarchy could have qualities that pull them right to the bottom. And someone who's allegedly at the bottom of the hierarchy have the qualities to put them right at the top. But when those lines are not blurred, you think you're stuck where you are. You're not. You can move to whatever levels of greatness you want to. And simultaneously, when you think you're at the top level of enlightenment and greatness, shock you when you do something that makes you fall right back to the bottom. But if you don't have the confidence and the humility to understand that not every part of your life is going to be worthy of the top hierarchy, you're not going to feel bad about being in the bottom, because you can just use those other qualities and work your way back up so that they can match the rest of the hierarchy. That's it. Strive for excellence. Strive for more in this life. Your voice, your mind, your creativity, your joy, your sadness, your anxiety, they are all important factors to make a society a moving and able and stable and functioning one. We can't all be on one singular plane. Not all aspects of our lives is going to be on the same plane of that hierarchy. They're not all going to be in the same tier, because what does that do? That creates a one-dimensional human being. And we both know, you and me and you, all of us, we know damn well that does not exist. A one-dimensional human does not exist. We have layers and tiers and multiple different hierarchies that make up our fundamental beliefs and our souls and our spirit. Like I said in the beginning, there is a childlike belief that's in level 1 of the hierarchy, where you kind of just regurgitate and you just take in like a sponge all the things that you were taught as a child, either from your parents or guardians or people in your life. There are things that you take with you that are fundamental, but as you get older and move into adolescence and adulthood, you also learn other things from different places, and you create new hierarchies and new opinions and new ways of living your life. And that creates the human experience that you're living right now. As you're watching me or as you're listening to me, you're living a life that is created from a multitude of hierarchies that you're sitting at entirely different levels in each one. But here you are, still living and breathing and thriving and surviving. So what makes you think that you cannot strive for the top in all of them? And also what makes you think that you're not humble enough to accept that sometimes in some areas of your life, you're not at the top, and that's okay. And sometimes you may never be, but what do you learn from that? What do you take from that in your life? I think that's something that's really important to think about. Yeah, because at the end of the day, you know what's actually such a good example of this, like a tangible example of this? The Leaving Cert this year. If you're not from Ireland, the Leaving Cert is kind of like the A-levels, the SATs, the final year exams that you take in secondary school to take you to university. That's the Leaving Cert exams in Ireland. Leaving Certificate rather, but we all call it Leaving Cert, right? Or the LC. This year, there was a painstakingly high amount of students who got the maximum points, which is 625 in the Leaving Cert exams this year. And so, with finite levels of university spaces that required higher points, a lot of them got filled up. Spaces got filled, and sometimes you actually were at the luck of the draw. You were at the mercy of a literal raffle to get into your course, even though you are at the top of the hierarchy. You are literally the top of your class, and you still didn't get in. Are you going to sit there and be like, oh my God, I must have not been smart enough. I must have not got enough points and da-da-da-da. No, you know that you got enough points. It's just in the hierarchy of pure sheer luck, you just didn't make it this time. But is that going to take away from the fact that you know that you're extremely intelligent and you know that you're 100% worthy of any course that you could have chosen? No. And that should be the same thing that you apply here, Just because something may not go in the way that you're expecting it to, or just because you find out that you may be wrong in something, or the way that you thought about something wasn't actually objectively correct, or just because you have an opinion about something and it's not fully developed, doesn't mean that it's not worth saying. It doesn't mean that it's not worth speaking about, because look, I'm speaking for 37 minutes about something that I wrote 3 bullet points down about, and I was almost tempted to not speak. But again, that's what happens. The seeds would have stayed right in this phone, and I never would have planted them. Guys, do you know what's crazy? Episode 5, and this is the first time one of my farming references actually made sense. But guess what? It wasn't even mine. You know why? Because you learn from other people who are at the top of the hierarchy. And that's okay. And it's not just making a discovery like a single sentence. Like, you know, I'm not even going to finish that point. I'm actually not going to finish that because I already know it's not going to make sense. Moving on. Another thing that Ismatu spoke about, I think it was in one of her videos, she mentioned something called the shiny dust syndrome. And I think that perfectly describes the way I just spoke about the hierarchy. The shiny dust syndrome quotes that the person in the front of the room shines the brightest. They are the most important. They are smarter and they are worthy. And that's how you perceive them. And you perceive that you could never be at such a level. And I think that couldn't be further from the truth, you know? That's where the hierarchy is so flawed, because you literally believe that you're where you are, they're where they're at, and that's where they should be, and this is where you should be. And that's not the case. So basically, the way that I perceive the shiny dust syndrome is that we either aim to be at the top by any means necessary, even if it means waffling a little bit, pretending like you know what you know, meanwhile you don't know, or actually taking the time to read every single source that exists about every single thing ever. You either aim to be at the top, or we become content with being at the bottom. But that's why I actually feel like that hierarchy that I spoke about, I feel like it does exist in today's society, but I think it needs to be restructured, it needs to be rebuilt, or it needs to be completely dismantled altogether. Like I said, blur those flipping lines. And I want to speak specifically to Black people. I want to speak specifically to my people of color. Actually, I especially want to aim this to Black people because I can speak from experience. So many of us are following in our ancestors' footsteps by remaining at the bottom of the hierarchy voluntarily, or we find ourselves moving at any means necessary to reach the top, but in the complete wrong way. When I say that we're remaining at the bottom, it means that we settle for seeing white people in the positions of power that you know you have the potential to sit in and thrive and succeed in. But at the same time, you also have corrupt Black leaders who try to get to the top by any means necessary and displaying just the right amount of intelligence to be perceived as the top of the hierarchy, the top tier. And I think we've got it all messed up. I read this TikTok or watched this TikTok recently, maybe a few days ago. There's a woman who has a PhD in education, and she's saying it is so scary how little we know about our history, how little we know about our ancestors, and how little society speaks about us and brings our names up in rooms where we need to be spoken about and considers us. We are not going to be considered unless we consider ourselves. And by considering ourselves, I mean we speak highly of ourselves and deem ourselves worthy of being at the top of the food chain for once, for the entirety of probably the whole, since maybe colonialism even started over 400 years ago. We've deemed ourselves content with just getting a simple nursing job and getting the little master's degree so I can say that, oh, I'm the first person in my family to get a master's, and we go about our day. Not knowing that, okay, you've spat out and regurgitated the information that's been given to you, and you've been given your little diploma and you've gotten your little big girl corporate job. Good for you. What are you doing to plant those seeds? those seeds of that job that you've gotten, those accolades that you've gotten, you're just holding them and you're being modest about it because, yeah, okay, I've achieved it, but, you know, I don't want to reach too far out of my zone. You know, I don't want to be perceived as cocky. I don't want to be getting to the top of the food chain because then I'm going to be easily targeted. Who told you that? Who told you that? Hint, it's this color on my jumper right here. We've been told that black is beautiful, black excellence, but to a certain extent. And I don't like that. It actually really pisses me off because it's like, even me, I find myself guilty of it, where I was almost not going to do this podcast and just do my little masters, get my job and move on. But you move on and you get the job and you pay for your parents' mortgage and you do all the financial things for your inner circle, and then you die. And then now what? Those seeds, that masters that you got, that job that you have, that money that you had, it's not going into the grave with you. But you know what is going into the grave with you? The seeds of the ideas that you were supposed to sow and you never did, because you were so convinced that you've done enough. You've proved the white man wrong. You've done enough. No, you haven't. You haven't proved them wrong, because it's almost like they know of our greatness more than we do. They know the power that we hold, and we don't acknowledge it and we don't hone in on it. We are so comfortable with mediocrity. We're so consumed with trying to just reach that level that they told us is our maximum, but is really just 50%. They told us that if we work really hard, we're going to get to level 3. Meanwhile, you've just managed to find yourself to the middle of tier 2. Tier 3 is way up there. You still have fuel in your tank, but you're just going to let it dwindle and die until the engine can't run anymore because you've made it to your destination. What the actual hell? Plant the seeds. In fact, plant the seeds. Now, I've said that to black people, but I mean this to literally anybody who's listening. You are more than mediocrity. You are more than the maximum level that they've told you that you're at. You're more than your peak, because that peak was given to you by somebody else. I don't believe any human being should even have a peak level of intelligence, or that there should be any peak level of how revolutionary or how many words you can say or how many thoughts you can develop. I don't think there should be a limit at all. They say the sky is the limit. No, it isn't. Go further than that. Anyone who's telling you that there's a peak that exists for you, no matter how high it is, go higher. No matter how high it is, that's not the highest that it could be. They're setting you up. They're giving you a limit because they think that once you reach that, you're going to stop. And you do stop. And that's the problem. Reach higher than that. Plant those flipping seeds. God, I wish I could curse, but I don't know who's going to listen to this. I'm thinking about the minors. I'm thinking about my future kids who could maybe listen to this someday. I don't want to curse, but I don't think I need to curse to emphasize how passionately I feel about the fact that we could be learning so much more than what we are. We could be so much more than what we are, but we sit and we listen to and accept the limits that have been set for us. We need to advocate for ourselves more than anyone else could, because at the end of the day, you know what? Screw advocation. Screw advocacy. Advocacy. I don't freaking know, guys. I'm so like worked up about this. Look how I'm gripping my jumper for dear life. Screw all of that. Throw it out the window, because we're not even considered, period. Let's even start there. When are we spoken about? When are our issues spoken about? When it's not coming from our own mouths. And when it's coming from our own mouths, it's not even enough. It's not enough to shake shit up. Speak more. Like, this may be going back on a statement that I made before about like, oh, you know, black male podcast always talking about the dating scene, blah, 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 blah. Or, haha, like there's these little white boys who are only just discovering existential crises, when I've been thinking about this stuff since I was 10 years old. Like, those are the jokes that we see online as well. Like, haha, you think you know all this, but you don't. Haha, you think this and you think that, blah, 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 blah. Like, you think you know all that, but I've been thinking about this before you. It's that same hierarchy there. Seeing someone on level 1, they're trying to push their way up into level 2, they're trying their hardest, and you just kick them down because you're like, yeah, you're not anywhere near my level. You're actually too late. You think that you've discovered everything. You think you're the greatest in the world. Meanwhile, I've done this already. Blah 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 blah. You see how we sometimes set limits on other people? That's how other people are setting limits on us too. Hence why I say dismantle the entire hierarchy, guys. Screw it. Learn whatever the hell you want. Speak however the hell you want. Speak about the dating scene, because you're teaching someone not to waste their time on a certain man or a certain woman because of the way that they treated you before. You speaking about that is planting a seed. You speaking about the time that you cheated on 3 different people with 3 different names and 3 different identities is the same way you're still planting seeds. Someone's going to learn something from that. So speak, guys. Plant the seeds. That's all I'm going to say. Plant the seeds. As I said in the first episode, delve deeper. Let's explore more. Because the limit, that sky's the limit. Bullshit. I can guarantee you, the limit doesn't exist. I won't even say the limit's up in the galaxy. There's no limit. It's past the Milky Way. No, there's no limit. It's past the flipping. I don't know any other astrology. I did not learn any of that. And if I did, I was asleep. So I don't know. But the whole limits, any limit that anyone tells you about, it doesn't exist. They're lying to you. They're lying to you. There's no limit. There's no hierarchy. Learn as you please. But please, whatever it is that you learn, don't just hold it as a little trophy of intelligence. Plant it, sow it, and watch how you'll reap it in so many beautiful, miraculous ways. And yeah, that's it. That's all I gotta say, guys. I finished my little drinkity drink. I really want some more, so I'm gonna go get myself some. So thirsty. I'm so tired. So I'm gonna go, I don't know, watch Selling Sunset or something. I could get into that, but it's not relevant. I've already said what I need to say. So if you've taken something from that, amazing. But I'm proud of myself because I've sown my seed for the day. And that's the best I can do, you know? So yeah, thanks guys for listening to my so-called half-baked opinion that happens every episode, that I say, oh, I'm not going to speak for too long, but it's been 50 minutes. It's been 50. See what I mean? I'm proving my own point. Plant the seeds. You never know. You never know what will come out of it. So yeah, thanks guys so much for listening to another episode 5 of the Black Sheep podcast. I've been your host, Keziah, and I will catch you in the next one in a bit.